What, you're gonna do a backflip?
I feel like a kid. This coffee is strong and it's good.
What you got some extra grains and that stuff now, huh, Sabrina? Oh, you broke the rule. You weren't supposed to talk.
This little girl over there.
Oh, we're back to live. We got the Tony and Tony duo. Adam back on the doing mysterious things. Maybe works for the CIA or something. Who knows? I saw him on a B-2 bomber or something like that the other day.
He's always gone.
Always gone. But Tony, today we're going to talk about the Wu-Tang Clan method, the protect your neck method of for sale by owners. I think when there's this, I don't know what to call it, conception, misconception, or just the opinion that it's a seller's market, a lot of times sellers think that they're going to outsmart the market, and they're going to do this by themselves because they don't want to pay the middleman, they don't want to pay the real estate agent, commissions too much, a million other things. And lots of times, I think there's a lot of published stats from the Realtor Association that maybe there's like a 18 to 20% reduction in net sales price when you do sell your house by owner. But let's talk about it from the buyer's perspective a little bit. You're just dealing with Joe Blow. What if Joe Blow is not even the seller of the house?
Well, so this is like a huge subject. We could do like 5 weeks on this. I relate it to like in Illinois where we use attorneys and people will want to grab their attorney that's their business lawyer. And lawyers will always be often be like, yeah, like real estate deal, simple contract. It's a house. You're buying it. Guy's got a financing contingency. Okay, he's got to get financing. Yeah, I'll handle it. And when it's an attorney that doesn't do these things all the time, he doesn't understand all of the 9 zillion little nuances and things that can go wrong. And it creates problems, so much so that I'm at the point where we have some recommended attorneys. And then if you choose, we have this conversation on the front end. If you choose to use an attorney that is not experienced in residential real estate, we'll actually reject you as a client because there are so many little things that are going to fall into that guy's hands that he may goof up, that may make it more difficult, cost you more money, or cost you the house. So that's with an attorney involved. The guy's used to looking at contracts and writing properly. Now, when we go to a regular sale, for sale by owner, and we're buying that, a couple of things we have to realize. There's a high likelihood that this individual is for sale by owner because he's cheap and he thinks he knows better. There's a second highest likelihood, or actually probably the highest likelihood, that this guy had 3-4 agents out to his house to tell him what it was worth. And he argued with them to tell him it was worth more in light of all of the evidence to the contrary. All right. People know that we give CMAs, evaluation of your house, for free. So they'll abuse us for that to try to figure out what it's worth. And then they're going to do it on their own. All right. And when you are a buyer, usually these people, the homeowners, 95% of the time, they don't have the documents ready for you to move if you want to move. And they don't have the right documents. They almost never have seller's disclosures, which are something you should get about the property on the very front end where he's telling you what he knows about the house.
Yep.
And you're formally agreeing to acknowledging that before you're proceeding. And they generally don't have a contract or a proper contract. All right. I've gone online. You can Google
Rocket Lawyer, all that
Rocket
stuff.
Lawyer, real estate contract, or whatever. But there are a lot of holes in them. And our contracts, I complain about them. However, every couple of years, we have an entire team of brokers and lawyers that work on these things, and they're getting feedback from thousands of transactions going on, and they're adding things to them, removing things to them for consumer protection. When we look at one of these Rocket Lawyer contracts, there's so many holes in it that if somebody is getting input from an informed individual who's maybe kind of slick or whatever, it can really wrap you around a tree.
It's funny too that we see these a lot on the mortgage side because a lot of times people will start that process and then it's like, oh, hey, me and my parents' friends signed this contract. And it's like, how come Rocket Lawyer or these other websites that have these contracts, every state's contract is almost the same, which is wild because every state has different provisions in their normal realtor association or board contracts. They have different things. Like Our like Michigan taxes prorated differently than in Illinois, than different in Indiana, different in Wisconsin. Like those canned things leave those holes, and then it just creates exposure for the buyer, right?
Yeah. So on the selling it side is a completely different thing. I could talk for days about that, about, you're really not going to get the money for it. You're going to save money to cost you sales price, whatever. But on the buyer side, there's a lot of things, years ago when I was running the brokerage, I saw a thing. There's a little disclosure at the bottom of some forms that said it was that this document is to only be used in conjunction with this form. All right. And there was one, and it was like some small, like one word that didn't apply. And it turned out that wasn't supposed to be used with this contract. All right. It was like an amendment or something in the state of Illinois. And the guy went and sued and said it was a non-valid contract, and he won. All right. There's a lot of things that I see on your contracts that void them on their face. Wrong seller, timings were wrong. We missed a timeline. We didn't understand something. So there's that. The other thing is, say you sign a contract that has all of the protections that you're supposed to have in it. Well, those protections are there for you to be able to say, wait a minute, hold up. We ran into this problem. Okay. But the wait a minute, hold up, it can't be on the phone, and it can't be a text message. It needs to be properly written and conveyed to the other side. And this is where I see the regular man fall flat on his face. He's not used to writing in proper legalese. All right. He's not used to writing a proper response. So his response, and then there's no agreement method for it. Okay. So we've run into a problem, but now we have no way to properly deal with it. So what happens is things just continue on. We usually blow past some timelines in the contract, and very often you end up where the contract is completely invalid. We're not even following it anymore.
Yep.
What I see on the seller side is, I forget what the statistics are. I knew them at one time, but it was something crazy, like something like 90% of for sale by owners eventually sell with a realtor, not because they couldn't sell the house. They got it under contract and they couldn't keep it together. And these things go on and on and on, and then there's no end point. All right. And we see buyers getting frustrated with this and sellers getting frustrated with it.
Yeah, that's on the how to navigate when things come up, right? We talk lots of times, you and I, on this show separately. Every real estate contract has something a little weird that pops up. It's life. People are being people. How do we navigate things? So like protections, right? So in the contracts, we did an episode about inspection request. And, am I going to write this as is with inspection response? Like when there's not someone there and you're that buyer, that seller is just flying lone eagle there. Well, how do we handle that?
Yeah, exactly. Your problem is, so one, like inspection. Okay. Like I see it all the time. Like I'll get a Facebook message like, hey, can you recommend an inspector? My kid's buying for sale by owner. You don't even know who to call as an inspector. All right. And then like 95% of the time, like, it's like, I know your deal's going to die anyways. Right. Because if the inspector does a good job, nobody's prepping you for what to expect. And inspectors find things that are wrong, even on brand new $1 million construction. All right. So you're going to need to make a response. All right. Say you're great. You're the most well-read and you can write properly and all of that. All right. So you put together a proper response. Now you're sending it to a regular man who's likely has no ability, no idea how to understand that, how to respond to it. So what happens? They shut down. So if you write a proper response, they shut down. Now what? Okay. So now you're in limbo, and now you're forced to deal with what we were talking about just before we got on here. Well, yeah, everybody agrees that it's wrong. Everybody agrees that it's a problem. You're screwed if you move forward. Do you want to buy the house or not? And you see people close on it, and then they end up with problems after the fact. It's just a nightmare.
So that's just the inspection part of it. So then the next part we were talking through earlier was other things that pop up. Post-closing possession, or what happens if we close on the house and the seller never moves? There's no one to enforce accountability on the other side. So we've talked about that. We have that problem just in regular transactions with agents. What happens when, that seller can't get, maybe they didn't serve the tenant proper notice. They're selling an investment property. Lots and lots of things seem to pop up on these things. So is it true or false? You can actually use a buyer's agent to represent you in a for sale by owner transaction.
You absolutely can. And you can actually hire a guy to be hands off on both sides as well, as long as there's proper disclosure. So like
so you're the referee.
Almost like a magistrate. And you know what, you say referee, it's a good parallel to draw for sale by owner versus using the realtor world. So think of like the realtor world as like boxing. All right. Boxing, there's a ring here. We've got rules and things. There's structure to it. Somebody may break the rules, but there's a referee in place to stop things, pause things, and handle things versus a street fight going on outside of the ring.
Yep.
All right. And the street fighters that you see, oftentimes the sellers are the guys who are going to play dirty or whatever. They can't get in the ring. And I see this. Guys don't want to get in our ring because they want to pull a fast one. All right. So think about it like this. A lot of the for sale by owners, the guy who's going to be outside of the ring and wants to have that street fight is the guy with a knife, the guy who's going to pull a billy club on you. And you're thinking, hey, I'm a pretty decent boxer. I can fight. And you have no idea what you're going to be up against. And you will not have the referee to get in there and stop things once they start going wrong. So we've got this structure. And, we've talked a lot about credit cards and finance and things. What is like the average range of rates that a credit card company would charge a retailer? So a guy owns a business and he wants to take credit cards. What is the fee that he's going to pay on that?
2.5% to 5% probably.
I'd say 1.5 to 2.5. All right. It's 1.5.
American Express used to charge a lot. Maybe they've come down. So
1.5 to 2.5% is what your gas station, your TJ Maxx or whatever is going to be charged for just for you to swipe the damn thing. All right. How many times in our life are we swiping a thing? We're using credit cards for everything today. You're paying 2.5% on damn near everything that you buy. But when it comes to your house, you're like, I'm not going to pay 2.5 or 3% on that, where I'll actually get somebody to be doing something like writing responses, talking to me on the phone, emailing me, text messaging me, available at all times, there to walk through the property with me
on a 6 or 7 figure transaction.
Right. We'll pay 3% on every damn thing we buy, except for the biggest thing that we buy, where we're going to say we won't build that into the transaction. And you're okay with the credit card swipe because it's built into your transaction, right? So today, right, though forever, real estate fees have been built into the transaction, and people scoff at this fee. Well, because when you look at it, it's a large number. We'll take every single credit card expense that you've spent in the last 4 or 5 years, which is maybe how long that you've spent in your house. Now I run significant amount on my credit cards. All right. Like I could buy a decent car on what I spend on it every year, multiply that by 5. All right. And then put 2 or 3% on that. That's the same commissions as what you pay on your house. And you did the first one without even thinking about it. You never said, I'll do it for 1%. I'll do it for $600, whatever, right? You just paid it, built into the transaction. So build it into the transaction and you can avoid these pitfalls.
Well, that's the other part, right? So we talk about things that come up in the transaction. You said earlier on that seller, a lot of times, a slickster, intentional or unintentionally, maybe has this idea on this price, and in the contract or through financing contingency and all those other things. What happens when the appraised value doesn't support? Now, are we stuck? Is there any type of negotiation? How are negotiations had? Well, you have a real estate agent representing you on the buyer side. We can draft a proper response. Well, first off,
absolutely,
put the protection of the initial contract. If this doesn't appraise out, we're either renegotiating or
you've got no referee.
Exactly.
And you have no idea what the rules are. All right. So you're going to get blasted in the face. Like we'd be looking at the appraisal. Is it a legitimate appraisal? And then you'd be making a proper argument as to why it is or why it isn't to the seller to agree to our price range. We'd have the proper forms in place to address it. As you're saying this stuff, I have to go to the seller side too, though, because this is the side that we fight quite often. All right. We see the guy who's trying to get away with a fast one. I know from selling real estate that the people that call off my signs, people say, well, why don't you care? I've said, I don't care if I have a sign, because the guy who calls off the signs, everybody knows that if you want to buy real estate, they usually start talking to a realtor. The guy who ends up as the guy who calls on the sign is another guy who doesn't like what the realtors have to say. He thinks he's going to get away with a slick one. He's been looking at property with a realtor and they haven't been finding what he wants, which means he's trying to buy more than what he can actually afford. So he's looking to pull a fast one. So now you got two guys who are looking to pull a fast one working together with no referee in the middle. Does this sound like a recipe for success? I mean, come on. You'd have to be nuts. Meanwhile, you're swiping your credit card for every damn thing on planet Earth with a 2.5% fee built into it, but you won't do it on the business expense you ever make in your life. How stupid could you be? Sorry. If you're working on a real estate transaction like this, I don't mean to call you stupid. We'll call you uninformed.
Yeah. I mean, there are situations where people can be uninformed. They just if you're not in this every day, it's a reasonable chance that you're not able to follow the stream or be aware of things. I mean, look at how fast everything else moves in life. Real estate moves as equally fast, and it's way more than setting up that printer or trying to set up the Wi-Fi at your damn house. There's lots and lots of little things that go on, and without the referee or the transaction facilitator, what step comes next? Where do we go? What do we do? Where do we order title from?
That's another one. Ordering title. You're a buyer, all right? Are you making sure that this seller generally orders title? They don't have any title relationships. We want insurance on that property. Your mortgage company is going to require it. And we want legitimate policies. And there's going to be conditions to this commitment for insurance. And it's going to say what is covered and what is not. Are you capable of reviewing that and making sure that the right provisions are in there? The answer is most likely absolutely not. The seller likely isn't. He's just confirmed with happy with putting up whatever appeases you, and you don't know what should appease you. Okay. So I don't want to make it sound like selling a house is a super difficult thing. All right. But we manage a lot of little bitty things that done correctly makes it feel easy. And I think people look at it like they're buying anything else from the store. Like it's a simple thing. It's my house. I want to sell it. This guy wants to buy it. How easy. The realtor was really pretty. She's got a nice clothes on and a nice car, and she makes a lot of money. Of course, it's going to be easy. There's a lot to handle here that, yes, it looks easy when it's done correctly, but without the experience or the training, I mean, come on.
It's a scary world when you look at it from that perspective. So if you are a buyer and you're think that whatever, you have this transaction, you and I worked on a transaction like this where you represented the buyer. Well, I don't know if representation is the right word. You facilitated the contract on a father-son transaction because there was weird things in title. There was things that a normal person would not be able to navigate.
Absolutely. A couple options. If you do end up in the for sale by owner thing, all right, you can hire a buyer's agent to just represent you. All right. We can have a conversation with the seller, tell them that we're going to orchestrate things. This is the guy that I represent. You can set it up so that you have us represent the seller if you want. We owe you honesty and we owe you whatever. We can do that. We can act as a middleman. The middleman thing, this is something you may want to employ when you're handling a family member's transaction. All right. For this one, especially in Indiana. In Illinois, you could probably just grab an attorney, handle the whole thing. All right. But in Indiana, you're not going to get attorneys who do enough business to where they ever become good at this and understand the nuances of it. So out here, you're likely better to hire a realtor to do this. All right. And they can we do it for a flat fee. All right. We can handle both sides of the transaction for you, keep everybody on their marks, handle all of the communication, and bring it all together for you. You need it.
So you do that for a flat fee.
That's a flat fee.
And that flat fee can be negotiated into price, into credit, or just paid outright from the buyer.
Absolutely. We've always just negotiated it into the deal. It has minimal to no effect on the deal, and it keeps it together. It keeps people feeling you're comfortable. You had some form of protection and guidance in it. All right. Now, when we've got two opposing parties, we generally find that it's best for one to represent one or the other. So we do it a little bit differently. In those instances, we usually have a little bit more work to do because we're kind of acting on the seller side too. We're ordering title. We're handling a lot more communication with them and whatnot. So fee is a little bit more. It's not quite what it's going to be when we're doing a regular sale. All right. Because we didn't have to do any of the marketing and dealing with any of the other agents. But these options are available for you, and you should take people up on it because, again, you're going to end up as a fighter outside the ring with no ref, and you don't know if this guy's got a billy club, a chainsaw, whatever.
Oh, it's good. I mean, just so everyone understands too, there is so much concern about BS deeds and these wholesalers and all this other stuff. Title companies, the professional organizations that are owned by 3 or 4 huge insurance companies in the United States have concern about deed validity and who the actual seller is. So imagine you're in that street fight, and all of a sudden the real seller jumps out of the corner with the knife while you're fighting the fake seller. There's all of these things that happen, not to be an alarmist, not to scare people, but when there is limited inventory and you need housing or you're seeking housing, don't make a desperate move that can set you back for lots of years.
Absolutely. Everybody looks at it. Well, I think a lot of people look at it like it's this easy, simple thing, and it's not a fight. Well, if you weren't starting out from an adversarial position, all right, if everybody was on the same page, and this is not adversarial by its very nature, there would be no need for a contract. All right. The reason that we have a contract is to keep each side in their corner and protect each side. All right. But if we're positioned such that we can't navigate that contract, we don't know our way through it, and it's going to become meaningless anyways, then you're in an adversarial relationship with zero protections. All right. I can't think of many things more that you need protection for than you do in something like this.
It's, again, 6-7 figures. A lot of times you're going to spend that much. That cost is worth every bit of protection that it provides. You just don't want to end up in a situation, but there's lots of different outcomes without the right protection, without recourse, without the right person to then lean on after that shit situation happens. Hey, Tony, we went to the final walk. No one's moving out. The tenant said, "What? They're selling the house." Okay, well, we're not. Don't let Slickster seller pressure. Hey, yeah, we'll get them out. No. We're gonna hold off on closing until you provide proper. The seller provides proper service to the tenant. All these things that happen,
and really, proper title. We see a lot of title issues that I've seen this kill a ton of for sale by owner issues because people don't have the urgency to get things done. Possibly they need a trust document. Possibly they need somebody else's signature on something.
Probate, heirship. Like I have one of those going on right now.
Correct. Just obtaining these things. I mean, even just signatures on documents. This is another one. I mean, when I find out I need a signature, I need something changed, I need something signed by my client, literally, I could have had it done 5 times by now in the time that we've been recording this. All right. Because I've got digital signature software that tracks your IP address, where you're at. It knows who you are, all of that. And it's taken as legal signature from a bank or something like that. We've got 2 guys who don't have any way to sign documents other than wet ink. Does this guy even have a printer and a scanner?
Most people don't anymore.
I mean, what do we do in terms of scheduling inspections and things? We have no record of who it is, who's going in, who was there, when they were there. We have no efficiency. We're going to be contacting this guy directly. All right. I'd like to set this up. There's no record of it. This is opening us up for conversation. One of the areas that we provide a buffer between a buyer and a seller is in that conversation. We know what to say and what not to say to protect you. All right. I see it all the time. I showed a property last week. This guy, I did to turn and tell my client, like, you need to shut the up. The seller was there. All right. And this guy's unloading all these things. It's the unknown that we protect you from.
So, Wu-Tang method, protect your neck, because there's we go a whole thing, right? We got inspected deck. We got the inspector. We got method man. You can find your real estate agent, the method man. They know the method because you want to avoid the ghost. I can't even talk today. Ghost face killer deals.
Absolutely. So get in touch with us. I mean, Tony Mitidiero. You can Google my name, 708-259-3734. Drop your phone on the floor. And then this guy, you're pretty easy to find.
Yeah, you can find me at plywithjr.com or reach me 630-284-9729. Like we said, we've on the mortgage side of things, we see all of the problems and disasters on for sale by owners. And I think the biggest thing is everyone just assumes that it's impossible to have buyer agent representation, referee, facilitator, whatever you want to call it, on those transactions. You absolutely can have them. As a pro, I recommend them because we see these deals run into all kinds of weird things, and then there's just no one to follow up with or no one to talk through it.
Nobody in the deal, your mortgage people, the title people, the inspectors, nobody wants to deal with you as a regular guy without representation, with no experience and no guidance in this. That's the other thing. I mean, it makes your life more difficult, right? So you have this built in of people not wanting to deal with you anyways. All right. So you take, like I said, everything you've bought in the last 5 years probably has had some form of 2% associated with it for nothing, for them gaining access to your money, some electronic transactions that happen in milliseconds. You pay 1.5 to 2.5% for nothing, for the use of your own money. Here, you're actually getting something in a case like a for sale by owner. Like I said, I do it generally on a flat fee type of thing, especially if we already have the parties designated and we know what the conditions are going to be. So it's going to end up even less than a credit card swipe. There's no reason not to employ us.
That's all we got. Anything else? It's hot. Stay cool.
That's it, man. Stay cool. Hopefully we've got a great weekend coming up here. 4th of July is right around the corner. I'm super excited about that. Lots of parties to get to. Do you have any good plans?
I may or may not have some plans. Going to be at the lake a lot, probably trying to get this pasty white back into the motorcycle Tony color there of the olive complexion.
Well, I'm out of town, and I've been out of town quite a bit, and then we're going out of town in 2 weeks. So I'm going to stay in town and hit up a bunch of local parties and things, see some clients, see some friends and whatnot, fix the track bike, and then hopefully we'll be back out on the road. But whether I am in Thailand, Montreal, or Chicago, Northwest Indiana, always have my laptop with me, and you will never even know that I'm gone.
All right, there you go. The method man right there. The referee, get him a whistle here. He'll help you facilitate your for sale by owner stuff and get it done. Until next time.
See you guys.
I'm done. Cut the show.